And welcome inside episode 124 of Breaking Bats, presented by Not For Long Media. My name is Justin Ayers, and I'm joined by a very, very special guest. Hasn't been on the podcast in a few weeks. It is my guy, Wil Crowe. I think it's probably been about a month and a half since he's been on with, I think you and Brian were on the last time, but it's great to see you. A lot's happened. Definitely wanted to catch up. How are you doing first? We'll start there.
Well, yeah, a lot has happened. It's been about 6 weeks, and um, I'll go ahead and do this number, show you there. Not the greatest of stuff, but probably a couple of days after the last time I was on the pod, I made my next start. I would assume it was my next start because that was about 6 weeks ago, and felt something in the fifth inning. Ended up finishing the inning about 5, 6 pitches later. Tried to give myself a couple days of rest, and it wasn't good. So we went and got the MRI, and just didn't get the news that we wanted at the time. So I'm back here in the States now. I'm no longer in Korea, which it's a blessing and not a blessing. I was really enjoying my time there and stuff, but I had surgery about 3 weeks ago. Had a revision surgery on the ligament, very similar to what Spencer Strider had. We talked about that previously. So yeah, I mean, mentally, I'm doing good. Um, I've came to terms with it. I've had my time to grieve on it and realize where I'm at. But a lot of family time, a lot of baseball on the couch or the recliner, and a little more video games than I'd hoped for. But we're doing all right.
NCAA college football is coming out soon. Just throwing that out there.
I've already convinced the wife I have to get the Xbox hooked up to the big screen and figuring out how I'm going to play and get my online dynasties going.
Gamecocks are just gonna be running the show down there.
That's right.
Um,
That's right.
it's gonna be so much fun. I like that though. You're finding the positives in every situation, which I think is a really good mindset to have. What is kind of like the timeline perspective of where you're at with everything?
Yeah, so it's max it's like a 12-month rehab. So you're looking at June 1st at the latest. I'll be back in games. We're only 3 weeks out right now, so sutures and stuff come out in on like 2 days. Then pretty slow for like 6 to 8 more weeks, and then at about that 3 month mark, we really start hammering out some weights, lifting, getting the arm strength back, and then start playing catch in December, um, like a 3 month throwing program. And then in March, we'll start throwing bullpens, and we'll probably start talking to teams, seeing who, I know there was a couple teams that were interested in me while I was in Korea about coming back. So maybe get some traction there in March. Hopefully, sign mid to end of March, maybe April, and then look forward to getting back into some games in May or at the latest June, and then get back to the grind.
I like that. Yeah, dude. So you mentioned Spencer Strider's injury. So did he have the internal brace, and is that what you got?
Yep. So basically, what the doctor told me, Dr. Meister. So the first time you tear your Tommy John ligament, usually you completely tear it right in half, like 80 or 60 to 80% of them are like right down the middle. They have to go in and figure eight it, do the whole thing again. 95% of the second time you have the elbow ligament injury, and they don't call it Tommy John because it's not Tommy John, the ligament basically just pulls off the top part of the bone. So, if your ligament's like, if my finger's your ligament and this is the top and this is the bottom, the top just kind of comes barely off the bone. So they put an internal brace in, they put a screw in, they wrap it with some collagen wire, they put a couple stitches onto the bone, and they tie it real tight. And then you're basically using the same ligament you had before. You just got to give it some time to, heal back up and, um, you know, get used to moving it with all those extra stitches being in there and stuff. So yeah, the internal brace, very very successful surgery compared to a full Tommy John. It doesn't take 2 years like the Tommy John does for the second time. It's only like a 12-month rehab. And then they're having like a 90% success rate on the internal brace compared to it's like a 40 to 60% or maybe 70% max on the second TJ. So it gives guys a better chance of coming back and shortens their rehab process as well as gets them back on the field quicker.
Was the guy that performed your surgery, it was Dr. Meister? I feel like I've heard his name a lot. Is he like one of the go-to guys when pitchers have these kind of arm injuries?
Yeah, he is, I would say, one of three of your big, elbow guys, or baseball guys. It used to be, Dr. Andrews, right? He
Yep.
was Tommy John. He was there, and I think a lot of these guys have worked under him, worked for him, and now you're looking at like the Dr. Alatrash from California. I think he does more shoulders now, and then you're looking at Dr. Meister, who's the Rangers doctor, and then you look at Dumas, who actually works in Alabama, or where Dr. Andrews' institute was. And I think those are your like three, but Meister and Dumas are your two main guys on the internal brace. And they both have like put their own little, splash of, to call it their surgery. So, Dr. Meister he, speaking of him, he is an incredible doctor, one of a kind, top. When I hurt my arm and I had the MRI in Korea, he had given me my physical before I went to Korea. And he gave me his business card and he said, don't ever hesitate to reach out. If you ever need anything, reach out. Well, it was probably 11 a.m., or 10 a.m. in Korea, which was like 11 p.m. for him. And, I was like, he told me to reach out. So I sent him a text and I said, hey, it's Will from Kid Tigers. You did my MRIs and stuff preseason. He told me to reach out if I should. So I told him what had happened and he texted me back within like 2 minutes. And he said, I hate to hear this. Once you get your MRI, send it over. I'll read it and I'll let you know what I think. I sent it over to him that night. He read it the next day. He FaceTimed me the following night after a full day of surgery, and he basically told me, the news, and was like, "I need to get you here to give you my full professional opinion, so I can get an MRI on you and use my MRI." But he was incredible. He really, made it easy on me when I wasn't really. It wasn't very easy to learn about my options or what actually had happened from the Korean doctors. And, what they had told me was right, but it was hard to like the language barrier was there. So it was like I couldn't ask questions. I couldn't it was kind of, hey, here's what you got done. Here's what we, if you can throw, we're going to give you a PRP and then you can rehab and come back and play. And I was like, but something's torn. And they're like, yeah. So I didn't really have any other question, like any way to ask questions. So Dr. Meister came in and was very, helpful to me. And he's just made this whole process really easy. When it's kind of scary, he's made it feel very protected and made me feel very comfortable with it all.
That guy's the man. That's awesome. Because like my question was going to be like, if there's only like a finite small number of these doctors, like I wonder just like how hard it is to try to get on their list of patients to be seen, right? Because it's like if there's three of people that are the guys, like I feel like their calendars just must be insane.
Oh, I mean, like I did it on the 4th of May. I ended up having surgery on the 31st. So, it was a couple weeks, but I had to get back home. I had to schedule the MRI, the appointment and stuff. But on my day that I had surgery, I know he had 5 others.
Oh my god.
So, and he does like surgery, office day, surgery, office day, surgery. So he's having, 15 a week or something like that. But like we had some types of surgery. So I think we had 5 of his 6 were internal brace. And then one of them was like a high school kid having to like get something with his bone done. But, there was, 6 surgeries in that one morning or that one day up till probably 3 or 4 o'clock. And then the next day he comes in, he sees all of us and kind of okays everything. So,
Dang. That's just crazy to think that he's just banging those. He must be that good at him that he's just like banging those things out five,
Oh
six
yeah,
in a day.
supposedly like he's got like two guys under at the same time. So like my surgery was at like 2, and it was me and another guy. So he like goes in and he like works on it, and then once he gets to a certain point, he like switches back to the other room, works on it, gets to a certain point, and he bounces back and forth between two at one time. So he knocks out like my surgery I think took 2.5 hours, and he like so like you're looking at you have one at 7, you have one at 11, you have one at 2. By the end of the day, it's 5 o'clock. You've had 6 surgeries. He's incredible, and like he's taking photos. He's into it. Like I have a full folder of like everything he did, all the pictures, what he had to do. Like he's intense, man. And he when he gets in that like mode, it's like, all right, you're a doctor. Like I can tell you're a doctor. You're crazy.
That guy's awesome.
Yeah,
Um,
he's good people. Really good people.
so when you're watching games now and you're seeing all these unfortunate other guys who are going through some of these like similar arm injuries in the game. Like, I'm an Orioles fan. I saw Kyle Bradish get hurt this past week. Sprained his UCL again. Like he missed like the first couple months of the season because he's rehabbing from a spring training UCL thing. He came back and apparently he was just pitching the entire time this season with it hurting. It's just going out there. I mean, he was shoving. His numbers were great as always, but this time it ended up being too much and he's back on the injured list again. When you see guys have these arm injuries, like, do you have a little bit of a better understanding? Are you able to see, like, read the reports and kind of know what's going on?
Yeah, you can kind of tell. You're now that you now that I've been through what I have in the past couple weeks, you can tell what like a sprain or a flexor injury or kind of what it means or what the doc thinks it's going to mean. He gives you really good insight. So, I know that his was a sprain, which means it's something to the ligament. Now, to what degree, it's kind of hard to tell. You if it's a grade 1, I've read into them a little bit. There no surgeries needed. You just kind of have to wait until it doesn't hurt. As to where like mine would have been like a grade 2, where it wasn't completely torn; it was just kind of pulled off the bone. And then you obviously have like a grade 3, which is a complete tear, which would be like your normal Tommy John, I guess. And I'm not a doctor, so don't quote me on these things. But um, I would assume if he's not going to have surgery, it's probably like a grade 1, and you just kind of got to stick it out and hope that it gets healthier sooner. Maybe similar to what happened to Garrett Cole. I don't really know. Their stuff really hasn't came out on him, but he's coming back tomorrow. I think he pitches tomorrow, and his was a UCL injury. But if it's a UCL injury, it's probably something along the lines of like, hey, you're gonna have to rest it and give it some time to like just calm down and stuff. As to where if there's some sort of tear, it's gonna be a grade 2 or a grade 3, and then it really like for me. After I hurt myself, I pitched on a Saturday. We had a rain out Sunday. Obviously, Mondays we don't play. So then I didn't pick up a ball until Tuesday because I was going to get that extra day of rest. And I could throw. I worked all the way back to like 120 feet, but I was throwing like I was lobbing it, right? And it didn't really hurt, but I could tell there was some discomfort. But to a point where I'm like, all right, I'm supposed to throw a bullpen tomorrow. I've got to let one of these go. Like I've got to see how it feels. So I'm getting to like 90 feet, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to pull this thing down. I'm actually going to finish and follow through. And I let it go, and I was like, nah, this something's not right. Something's bothering me enough. So, but Dr. Meister put a good point on it. Like it wouldn't hurt in layback. So like when your hand gets back to throw the ball forward, right? We call that layback. Well, if you have no ligament when you're in layback, you're going to have pain because that's putting complete stress on the joint, right? As to where when my ligament was still there, it was just pulled off the bone. It doesn't activate until you do that number. When you really flex that flexor tendon, that's like pulling down the baseball. And he was like, that's when you, like, in my mind, if you tell me that, that tells me you've pulled the ligament off the bone because it doesn't hurt in layback because your ligament is there. But as soon as you go to rip through, that's when that last part of that ligament's going to catch and help you finish. And he was like, that's why it was very irritable or hurting when you would go to finish.
Can you imagine trying to pitch to that kind of pain though, like Kyle did all season? That's gotta suck.
So when I did it, right, when I threw, I know the exact, well, I know around. So I was 5 innings. It was the fifth inning. I'd probably thrown like, I think I threw 75 pitches, and probably like the 70th pitch, I threw a two seam to a righty, and it felt like someone lit a fire in my arm. So I knew something was wrong, right? I knew something like was a little irritable, but it was like I threw it, got a swing and miss, went to like a 1-2 count with one out. So I was like, and I'm in the, it's like the fifth inning. I haven't given up a run. I'm like two hits in, maybe three hits all game, and like seven punch outs. I'm like, this is one of those games where you're like, everything. I don't have to worry about anything. When I throw it, I know where it's going. I know what it's doing. Like it's my nasty. Like I'm nasty. Like I know what I was doing that game. So as soon as it happens, I'm like, dang, I got to get through the fifth. Like whatever. So I think I throw five more pitches, and I throw legit five more sliders. I only throw sliders the rest of the game because it doesn't hurt when I get here. It only hurts when I was going there, like really finishing. So I go like slider next pitch, ground ball. Then I go like slider first pitch to the next guy, ball. Then I go like slider strike, slider ground ball, and get out of the inning. And as soon as I get in the dugout, my arm is just like numb. I'm like, okay, yeah. I went up to the coaches. I was like, I think I need to be done. And they're like, yeah, you were. Well, my coach was like, I see you doing this, like every pitch. I see you like squeezing. He was like, you're done. And then I was like, he's like, we'll give you some rest. And it just wasn't what we wanted it to be. But yeah, I was like, every time I threw like a changeup or a two seam, I was like, maybe I threw one more two seam, or maybe I threw one more changeup, and I was like my whole body shook. So like thinking about like having to rip those. Like my catcher probably was like, "Hey, throw a two seam here. It's a righty, like easy ground ball pitch." And I was like, "No, no, no, we're not. We're gonna rip sliders. Like we're gonna throw this slider. It's not bothering me. I'm throwing it where I want it." Like, and I got two ground balls luckily, but it was like I can only imagine like having to do it every game because when I say it hurt, like every time you go to finish, it's like a pull, it's like a tingle, it's almost like a sharp burn in that area. So I understand completely.
The way like I was reading like his teammates were talking about it like when he got done finishing pitching, it was just like guy's a warrior, guy's been pitching through this pain. I'm like, oh my god, I just had no idea. That's incredible to think that he was having more success than he did last year
Oof.
with his arm just like tingling and burning and hurting. That's
It
insane.
kind of speaks to like his stuff, like if you're able to do that and be in some, pretty substantial pain, like think about how good your stuff has to be to not feel 100% and to still be doing what you're doing. That's it's special. And I think that's, you look at his numbers and his stuff, like dude's got that. Like he throws that front hip two seam to lefties, right? Like inside, and it is like, I mean, at like 95, 96 sometimes, like dude's nasty. Like there's a reason he's in there. The Orioles and all their metrics, there's a reason they want him on their starting rotation. Like he's nasty.
He ripped a fastball. It was like 100, and it had like
Oh,
so much movement on it, and I was like,
dude.
God, this guy's locked in. This
Oh
is
man, it's
this is
great.
peak
It's
Kyle. Yeah.
it's
Meanwhile, on
great.
the inside, he's on fire.
Yeah, he's like looking at the radar gun, just trying to get more adrenaline. So he throws 100. He's like, that hurts, but thank
Yeah,
goodness
but
it
it
was
was worth it.
100. Let's go. That was awesome.
God damn. Well, wishing you a speedy recovery on your stuff, man. I can't wait to see you back
Thank
out on
you.
the bump. It's gonna be awesome again. You're gonna crush it.
Thank you.
Um,
Thank you.
I had a bunch of stuff I wanted to ask you about. I wanted to start with your first team in the bigs. I want to start with the Nationals because I'm a Nationals guy. I'm in DC, and I had a stat for you. Since June 6th, they have led all of baseball in rotation ERA with 1.41. Some of these guys I didn't know about until this year. How about DJ Hers and
Mhm.
Mitchell Parker? And I mean,
Hey,
obviously
Parker.
Mackenzie Gore is a stud, but have you seen what's cooking in DC in that rotation? Because it is some of the most fun pitching you'll watch.
Yeah, I mean, I know Mackenzie personally. I met him a couple times. I think Hurst, if I'm not mistaken, was in the Chicago trade.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know Parker, but I watched him pitch, and dude's got some really good stuff. And then obviously I played with Corbin, and someone I probably looked up to when I was first coming up and getting into the big leagues. So yeah, they and then was is Josiah still hurt or is he back?
He's hurt. You got
Okay.
Jake Irvin.
Irving. I played with Irving. Irving is an awesome dude. Nasty curveball too, but awesome human being. So yeah, I mean, dude, those guys are pitching it well. They're studs. I always thought when I was with the Nats that pitching was they knew that like pitching and defense was like how they were going to win. And at the time, they weren't. I think right now they're doing a lot more with less, or they're not spending bukus of money on their rotation like they were back in the day. But back when I was there, it was you had the Daniel Hudson, you had Doolittle, you had um, Javi Guerra. That was when Rainey was first coming up before he got hurt, so he was throwing like 100-mile-an-hour bullets. And then in the rotation, you had Strauss, you had Corbin, you had Scherzer, Animal Sanchez. That was early Fetty. Also, shoot, who else do we have? We had
Joe Ross, Austin Voth.
Joe Ross, yeah, Voth at the time. We had when I was in the minor leagues, we had Jeremy. What was his name? Right-handed pitcher, Jeremy. Big time name. He played a lot in the big leagues, but he was like our fifth starter in 2018, 2019.
It's not
Really
Guthrie,
good
is
dude.
it?
No. I
was gonna say I feel like Jeremy Guthrie.
Once
Tough.
I say his name, you're gonna be like, yeah, I knew that. Let's see, Jeremy. Such a good dude.
Hellickson.
Older, Jeremy Hellickson. Yeah, Hellickson. Like funky, all funk coming at you, just arms and limbs and balls going every which way. But like they were always into pitching. They always paid attention to it. So it doesn't surprise me really. Really, especially with the data nowadays that every team gets. Like we didn't have much data back then. I think the Nats were probably on the slower side of getting your TrackMan and your Rapsodos and stuff. I remember in like 2019, I was in Double A, and they would give us like we would have a Rapsodo and we'd throw our bullpen on a Rapsodo, and they would show me my spin rate on all my pitches, and that was it. And they'd be like, "We don't want you to see anything else." I'm like, I don't even know what this means. So like knowing, and I've talked to people how they revamp their, analytics department and how they really care about pitching. It doesn't surprise me that these guys, and then you look at their stuff, right? Like Mackenzie Gore's throwing a 94-mile-an-hour slider, right? Like Patrick Corbin had the best slider in baseball, and it's still doing what it probably needs to do. I mean, in 2019, he was the reason they won the World Series, and his slider is unbelievable. Like, Hurts struck out 14 the other day. Like what? Like
yeah,
that's happened probably like once, or like that might be the first time that's happened this year. Probably less than 20 times over the last 5 years. 15 punches. Like that's unbelievable. And then that Mitchell Parker dude, he's just a grinder. And then you look up and Jake Irving's going 7 innings, 2 runs with like 6, 7. Like, they really understand pitching, and it doesn't really surprise me at all, just because I've been through it with some of those people in that building, and it's a way they want to go about business. I feel like.
I was reading that Sean Doolittle's kind of provided that because he's a pitching strategist now, which is an awesome. Like he filled in as pitching coach. He's just making mound visits. I got all nostalgic. But apparently he's a big analytics voice in that clubhouse with some of these young pitchers. And I remember a lot of great Sean Doolittle with this great high fastball. Never really had an elite off-speed pitch, but he was just getting dudes up in the zone. I'm watching a lot of Nats baseball, and I'm seeing some of that stuff that's rubbing off on some of these younger guys like Parker and Gore, like up in the zone heater. Like, what do you remember about playing with Sean Doolittle, and are you surprised that his presence has led to some of these guys' success?
It doesn't surprise me at all, to be honest. Sean, one, is a great human. From top to bottom, I always enjoyed, being around him, talking. He was never too big league for, the young guys. He was never too show for us. He always was there to help, and he was super smart. I want to say I used Codify in the past. excuse me, I used Codify in the past, and I want to say that he used Codify when he played, and might have been one of the early people who used it. But Sean knew what his stuff did before the mold knew what like stuff was supposed to do. Like he knew like, hey, if I can land one slider in 15 pitches, I can throw my 20 plus vert fastball up in the zone at 92 and nobody's going to touch it. And that's kind of what guys are chasing nowadays. It's like, you look at these like metrics and like you see these metrics and what do they mean? What is this? What is that? Well, he knew all that before those things were available. Like you can go on Twitter right now and there's scouting reports of guys pitching every day. Like there's accounts that tweet like, oh, here's his numbers. Here's what his stuff plus was. Here's what this is. Here's what that is. That didn't happen, like 3 years ago. That didn't happen in 21 when I was pitching. Like these analytical gurus tweeting all this stuff. Well, then you go back 2 to 3 more years and when Doolittle was like saving 40 games a year and like nobody knew about that stuff. Nobody. And he did. He was all about it. So to see him, being in the dugout, like being a part of this like turnaround or like this pitching uprise that they're having success right now, it doesn't surprise me because he is super smart. He's a strategist now. He's going to be a pitching coach soon. If not one of the biggest analytical guys or analytical pitching strategists in the big leagues very soon. And if he ever leaves DC, I'll be surprised. They love him there. The fans love him. The staff, the front office loves him. He's an incredible human. I think he actually makes DC his home now. Him and his wife live there full time. So he's an unbelievable person. He's unbelievably smart. So seeing the success and him being a part of it or him being able to, shine some light on it doesn't surprise me one bit.
That's such a cool story. I didn't know that, but that makes so much sense knowing that like he's so locked into these numbers. Also, it doesn't hurt that he's probably one of the best clubhouse guys I've heard. Just like I saw the lightsaber. I know what he's doing.
Oh yeah, he is awesome. He, most of my time with him was in COVID. Or I guess all of my time, other than like spring training. But during COVID, like you had to wear a mask, you had to do this, you had to do that, and he was very serious about that stuff. But he'd always find a way. He would always find a way to like. We weren't great in COVID. In the Nats year, we were coming off a World Series. We didn't make the postseason. Just a really tough year, I think, for the whole team. But there was points in time in that season where he, you can just recall like he's a guy that's one of a kind and he knows it and he brightens up a room. He can pick people up when they're down. He can talk them through stuff if they need it. And he's a special human and it's someone that I'll remember playing with and being a part of, on the team with him, forever. I'll never forget him as a teammate and as a person and someone who was always, super caring and generous to me.
I love that. That's so awesome. I wanted to ask about another one of your former teammates back there in DC. It's Kyle Finnegan. He's third in the major leagues in saves. He's rocking a 1.78 ERA this year. How great is it seeing the success he's had, given the backstory and you guys' relationship coming up through the system?
Yeah, so he's a friend of mine. The year that he signed with DC in 2020, we were roommates in spring. Didn't know each other. We both needed a roommate. We stayed in like an extended stay, shared like a living room. But he's an awesome dude. I really enjoyed him. He's great people, and to see the stuff has always been there. For Kyle, he's 97 to 100. He's throwing 92 minor splitters. His stuff's elite. And I think it was just not like a matter of time, because I think he's shown glimpses of being this guy. I think for Kyle, just like really taking the bull by the horns and just, because he's an intense dude. He's a super competitor. He's a bulldog. He's a bad MFer, and I'm happy for him. His story's awesome. His story's one of a kind, and just knowing him as a human and knowing the stuff that he has, that's another. It's like it's not surprising. Like you got that type of stuff, and you get your feet wet and you get some confidence. Like you're you're going to be unhittable. And the dude's nasty. It's cool to see him go out there and close ball games and be the top dog because that's what he is.
We interrupt this episode to bring you a word from the official sponsor of Not For Long Media and the Breaking Bats podcast, the original Fudge Kitchen. It is a staple of the Jersey Shore with 6 locations in Cape May, Wildwood, North Wildwood, Stone Harbor, and Ocean City. The original Fudge Kitchen makes all of their fudge in store, guaranteeing a delicious product, so stop by and let them know that Not For Long Media and Breaking Bats sent you. Check them out online at fudgekitchens.com as they are shipping fudge and sweet treats all across the country. Now back to the episode. 7 years in Oakland's minor league system, never got called up. If you go look at like his minor league stats, he's rocking like a sub-3 ERA every year. No reason why he couldn't have been called up in Oakland before that. But I think he's like a minor league free agent to DC, and they're like, boom, you're stuck in the back end of the bullpen, high leverage, right out of the gate. Like, and he's been, like you said, he's been solid ever since. So I think it's awesome that he's, people are starting to recognize that.
Oh yeah, and he didn't even sign a minor league deal. He was a minor league free agent and got a big league contract with the Nats in 2020, like straight big league. I remember I was in the offseason like, who is this guy? Like I got put on the roster and I'm like, I'm trying to make the team. Like, who is this guy? Like, it's just another pitcher I got to worry about. He just got a big league deal. He never, and then I meet him. And he's awesome. And then you see him pitch and you're like, huh, yeah, I don't throw 100. I don't have a 92-mile splitter, so makes sense. And then seeing the success, it's awesome. I'm happy. I'm really happy for him.
Yeah. I don't think I have one last Nats question, then we'll move on. I don't think I've ever asked about just like the 2020 Nats team it's a very like odd because like, 2019, you win the World Series, then COVID happens and it's shortened season. And I like a lot of people had a lot of hope for that team. The core was still basically there. What were the vibes like in 2020 when you got there? It was kind of later in the season. Did it feel like deflated? Did you think that you were walking into like, oh my God, this is the World Series winner and no, we're not that great?
I just think, if you look at like baseball in a sense, even in like 2019 when they won the World Series, if you played the first 60 games, they're in like last place. And, I think really good teams are built for like I think the right word would be like attrition, right? They're not built to play like a 50-game season. They aren't because, you're going to have some older guys, you're going to have some younger guys, and you're going to have some in the middle of guys. You're not going to be like super young. You're not going to be super old. You're going to have a little bit of sprinkled all in there, and you're going to have your superstars. And I think in 2019, they showed a reason why we play 162. And it's because you can start off really cold and you can come alive at the right time and win. And I think, we just didn't play good at the for that season. We weren't good at the beginning. And before you knew it, we're 5-8 games out with 5 to go. It's like you got to win every game and we're not playing good and we got some injuries. Like just sometimes the ball or the chips don't fall in your favor. And that was probably a big reason for that. We, like you said, we had the core, we had the right guys on the team. Sorry, I'm plugging in my iPad so it doesn't die. But like you look at it and you're like, dang, there should be, they have a chance. And then the ball doesn't fall your way for a couple of weeks, and you look back in 60 games, we played 2 months, and it's like the restrictions and like what you could and couldn't do. Like some people didn't even get to see their families. Like, you never know how someone's going to react for the first time that doesn't get to see their kids for a month and a half. Like you don't know how that wears on someone mentally. So, it's tough. It's just tough. And, I don't think the vibes were ever down or bad. Davey was an unbelievable manager, and he always made sure that like he kept things loose and ready to go. He knew how good we were, how good the team was. So, he never really got tight, and he was always just, hey, we're gonna go out here, we're gonna play, and we're gonna get through this thing. So,
Yeah, I've always wondered about that because like if you look at 2019, they like exhausted, like they drained all of the gas from that tank. Like they gave everything they had, like all those guys did, pitching that deep in October to get a World Series ring. Yeah, it was just interesting. Like the fans were like, "Oh, we're gonna run it back," And then, hey, you know what? 162 game season, never know though. So we'll always, you never
Little
know.
asterisk. There's an asterisk, right?
There's an
That's what they
asterisk.
say. There's an asterisk. So
It's a good point.
you get hot. You get hot at the right time. I mean, and I was a part of the team last year, right? The Pirates through what, May 15th, we were 30-16, whatever. We were leading the division, and not saying that we weren't good or whatnot, but like we were hot, right? 50 games in, we would have made the postseason, been in first place. Like it's just a matter of like, young teams usually the good teams go watch the Dodgers every year, right? Now they're good. They're playing good right now. They're hot, right? They're not probably first place. I don't know. I haven't looked. I watch them play and they win. They got somebody making $300 million playing or pitching every second day or whatever it is. But anyways, you like look at them and go back to like last year in September maybe, and they're like the last 2 years in September. Look at their record in September. They're winning like 20 games a month in September. It's because at the end of the year, when a lot of teams are beat up and burnt down and like we got to get into the playoffs. We got to get into the playoffs. They don't get into the playoffs. They walk into the playoffs. They're like dominating in September. And that's like the good teams. You can really tell like at the end of the year when it's like 140, 150, that 120 to 150 mark, they're not like 50-50. No, they're winning like 70% of their games. They're hot at the right time. And that's when the really good teams show their face, right? Like August, September, whoever's the hottest, go look at it. They're like walking in the playoffs, and usually they're winning a series or two in the playoffs.
Never thought about that, but that makes so much sense. There's no pressure. There's no stress. They're like 20 games up and everything. So they don't have to worry about like fighting for their lives every night.
Yep.
Yeah.
I wish I knew what it was. And I probably can look it up, but 2023 Dodgers September record, I bet it was, I want to say they won like 21 games in that month. Like 20 Dodgers September, let's see.
Record by
This
month.
was September 30th. Let's see.
The August 2023 Dodgers were 24-5.
Okay.
The September Dodgers last year were 16-12, but
so
the August
36 and 17. They're 20 games over 500 in the last 2 months. Like the good teams play good in August and September. They play really good. They don't struggle down the stretch. September can be different. Like in September, you're calling guys up, you're seeing who can help you, things like that. Like maybe it's August, whatever. August 20, they lost 5. They played 29 of 31 days, and they won 24 games. Like that's getting after, and that's no prospects. Like that's your 40 man. There's no expanded rosters. Like that's your team. You're in the dog days of the summer. It's 100 degrees everywhere you're playing. Like you're 120 games in, 110 games in, and you waltz through a month. You lose 5 games. Like that's impressive. That's really impressive.
I can't wait for the dog days of summer now. Now that way I can like I'm gonna be telling everybody I know like that's my nugget of like, hey, just check out these teams. They're gonna be going to dare. That's
right.
awesome. Speaking of teams that are good and crushing it and will probably go 24-5 in the month of August, the New York Yankees. I for a long time have, I'm on the record. I'm not a big fan of theirs since I'm an Orioles guy. It's hard to be a hater now because their pitching is just legitimately good. For a while, I was like, oh, it's a bunch of like number 3 and 4 starters punching above their weight class. And I look and it's just like they have one of the best rotations in all of baseball, and I can't get over it. Like your guy Clark Schmidt, South Carolina. I mean, he's hurt right now, but he was pitching like lights out before he got hurt. Like, how crazy is it seeing the transformation of last year's Yankees rotation, like Rodon and all that? So this year it's just like one of the best in baseball.
Yeah, I mean, they're, first off, speaking of Rodon, right? People are like, oh, come back. Dude's making like $200 million, right? Like he probably wasn't healthy last year. Like to an extent, but he's out there pitching his life, like pitching his balls off because he's making $200 million. So for him to be doing what he's doing, like go look at 2022 when he was with the Giants and he was punching out 14, 12, 13, 14 a game, going 6, 7. Like the dude's elite. Him and Garrett Cole, and then you add like Marcus Stroman. Like those are three pitchers who have probably been in the top 5 Cy Young and won Cy Youngs multiple times. So like don't like the Rodon hate kills me. Like don't I hate seeing that. Oh, Rodon's a comeback player. Rodon's making $250 million a year. If you're making $250 million or $250 million on your contract, I don't think you should be comeback player of the year. Like you've shown it enough. Like you're a dog. You're an ace. Like you make over $200 million, you're an ace. He's doing what he should be doing. He probably wasn't healthy last year. Sorry, get over that rant. But anyways, yeah, like Clark, Nestor, Gil, these guys are, they're good. They have good stuff. Like the Yankees are extremely smart with analytics. I've talked with Clark before. They are been ahead of the game. They know things. Clay Holmes, buddy of mine, dudes, like he went there and, they tell him, hey, you're going to do like 3 things and you're going to be the best pitcher in baseball, right? One of the best pitchers. And that's what he's done. So like they understand, they know how to teach. The Pirates pitching strategist, like game plan coach, Radley Haddad, he was a Yankee guy. And I know how smart Radley is. Like he's unbelievably smart. Like that's why the Pirates got him and gave him a bunch of money because he is incredibly smart. Well, he came from the Yankees. Like the Yankees are gurus, right? Like every pitch, every AB, every bat, the weaknesses, the strengths, what you need to do, what you don't need to do. And like as long as you execute and you follow what it says, you should have success. And I think that's a big thing that people are like, man, this guy's got a nasty slider. Like Nestor Cortez is a psycho. He's doing like pump fakes on the mound, like all this stuff. And like Clark's got one of the best, stuff plus knuckle curveballs in the big leagues, right? Like it's one of the best pitches in the big leagues. But like if these guys weren't executing, right? If they're not executing their game plan or they're not executing what they're being told, they're probably not going to be doing that well. But every one of them, they're doing their game plan. They're following their reports. They're following what they're being told or what they're learning by looking at their data, and they're executing. And I think that's a big thing. It's like execution, right? Like you can have the best stuff in baseball, but if you're not executing, you're not going to pitch good. And then you look at these guys and like Lucas Gill or Luis Gill, dude's throwing 95-mile-an-hour changeups down and away on the black. Like, yeah, he should have a 0 ERA in the month of April. Like, shouldn't get hit. He throws 102. Like, he's nasty. Like, Clark Schmidt's curveball. If I had that curveball, I'd throw it 94% of the time. Like, nobody's touching. He strike out 10 people a game. Like, come on. Like the execution is there, which leads to the results. And I think, how smart the Yankees are and how smart their pitching department is from what I've heard from Radley talking with Clark. You see these guys like Nestor Cortez. When we were in Yankee Stadium 2022, they had like the vert and the horizontal, like your analytics up in center field. He's throwing like 21 vert fastballs from a low launch, like a low vertical approach, which a lot of people might not know what that means, but that makes him a unicorn. As soon as the ball's over like 19 vert and you throw from a lower slot, it's a unicorn pitch. It's like Skeens. Like Skeens throws his at 17 from a lower approach angle, but it's 100, so it plays way up, obviously. But like that's why Nestor, everyone's like, oh, he's throwing 92, 93. How is he getting away with it? It's because he's got a pitch that literally looks like it's coming out of an elevator shaft. It's going like this, and like guys are like swinging a foot under it, and they're like, how are these guys missing it? It's because they got stuff. They got stuff, and then you throw a little funk in there, and it's like, I mean, these guys are unbelievable pitchers, and they're showing it. And I mean, it's a testament to them and who they are and who the Yankees are.
It's insane to watch. Yeah, there's really no weaknesses. You watch the Yankees pitching, like, you can maybe nitpick the bullpen, maybe like there's some spots in the pen, but like the rotation is one of the best, like I said, and just like everybody they have pitching for them scares me. and it's not fun for everybody else in the AL East right now.
I mean, you get Garrett back, you get Clark back. You're gonna put one of them, or not Garrett. You're not putting Garrett in the bullpen. He's gonna be starting. But like you're gonna put a guy who's in the rotation in the bullpen, right? And then what if they didn't lose? I don't really know how to say his name. A lot of people call him Lasagna because he throws 100. But
Loizaga?
like he's hurt. Like what if he wasn't hurt, right? Like then you got him and Clay. I actually think I saw two guys go down today. Maybe Ian Hamilton and someone else got hurt today. On top of Rizzo, but like these dudes are unbelievable, man. They're really really good. They got really good stuff, and you nitpick the bullpen, and you're like, all right, what are we going to nitpick? We have an all-star closer. We have a lefty Ferguson who's like 7-foot arms and throws it from like down under like left. It's like they're good, man. They got good stuff. They've built a team around what they have, and I think they're smart. They're incredibly smart, and they know how to play the game, and they hit. I mean, you got Aaron Judge, and dude's hitting like 700 since the start of April. So you're going to get runs with him and King Soto on your team. So
Yeah, it's like you look at that lineup and you're like, oh, Verdugo cleanup. That's the weak spot. And you're like, no, dude's got like 50 RBIs already, and Stanton's hitting homers again. It's like
Stanton's
this is
hitting
insane.
240 again, 120 mile-an-hour exit velos every other night. It's like, so, and then like Volpe, I want to say Volpe's hitting like 290. Like playing
Leadoff
Gold Glove
Volpe's a
defense,
revelation.
like unbelievable. And then you forget the fact that you have a two-time batting champ in LeMahieu, who no one wants to pitch to, and then you have Rizzo, who's hurt, but like we're 2 years away from him hitting like 290 or 280 with 30 homers. Like he's still like a threat. Glaber hit like 30 last year. I know he's not off to the best start this year. Like, where's your hole? There's not holes in that lineup. There really isn't. And it's like, okay, you're getting 95 to 100 every night off the mound, and you're facing this lineup with Judge, Stanton, and Soto, and then a bunch of guys around them that just complement. I mean, they're built. They're a really good team, and if they can sustain not being hurt, their odds are right up there with the best of them, with the Dodgers and the Braves when they're healthy. Like they're one of the best teams in baseball.
You mentioned something about when all these pitchers come back, and I wanted to ask, like, do 6-man rotations work in baseball? Is that a thing that, like, does extra rest? I feel like I've heard both sides of, like, this guy's really good with extra rest, and other people are like, don't give him an extra day. It's a 10 ERA. It's a nightmare. Like, what do those 6-man rotations work?
I mean, so yes and no. I think if you're upfront with it, everyone's on board. With Garrett Cole coming off of the injury, when Clark comes back, could you go to a 6-man with two guys coming off injury? Yeah, it gives everyone an extra day as long as they know up front. It doesn't. They can like build their routine out. Hey, we're going to do it we have 25 games in a row. We're going to do it for this 25 game stretch, so we can really like make sure we keep you guys healthy. So then they can build out their their routine and their plan. I think it works. I think it's fine. But when you throw it onto people like out of nowhere, I think it is when it can like mess with you. But I think having a 5-man rotation or a 6-man rotation doesn't hurt you as much as it puts more pressure on each starter, because when you have a 6-man rotation, you have one less man in the bullpen. When you have one less man in the bullpen, that means as a combined staff, every 6 days, you need to cover 6 more innings. So if one guy goes 2, right? If a guy has a bad outing and goes 2, well, your other 5 guys need to cover to at least the 6th inning the 6th or 7th inning every time. Because if a guy goes 2, then you got to throw a long guy. Then you got to throw, your whole bullpen for 7 that one day. Well, that shortens your bullpen even more, right? And I think if you're a 5-man rotation and these guys are coming back every 5th day, but you have that extra arm in the bullpen, if there's a bad day, then you have an extra long man, or you have an extra guy in there who can pick up some slack. As to where if you have a bad day and you only have 6 or 7 arms down there instead of 8, Then you're looking at, okay, we have 25 days in a row. Let's say you go Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and that 2 inning thing happens on Tuesday. Well, by Sunday, your bullpen is either going to have to call someone up or you're going to have to, someone's going to have to go deep, deep. So it puts a little more pressure on the starting pitching because your bullpen is limited. Your bullpen has less, and you can't throw guys 5 or 6 days. Like it just doesn't happen in the bullpen. So it puts a little more pressure on the starters because there is a less bullpen. But the way they're throwing, like if these guys are throwing the way they are and they're averaging 6+ innings a game, then I don't think it makes much difference. Because if you average six as starters, if you can average six, which is it's tough to do, but if you average six as a 6-man rotation, then in every 6 games, they're only having to cover 3 innings a game over a week period. That's not that bad, right? For 8 guys. But if you're having to cover that extra inning, that turns 18 innings a week to 24 innings a week, and you lose a guy, that's a big deal. That's a real big deal.
That's so well put. That just makes those like long guys that can come out of the bullpen and give you 3, 4, 5 innings. Like those are some of the most valuable pieces in a bullpen. They have to be.
They are the reason that good teams, that if a good team has a good long man, it protects them. It protects their bullpen. It protects their starters. And go to pretty much any good baseball team, right? Any good big league team. Find their long reliever. Find out who it is, the guy who covers 3 to 4 innings, and go and see who everybody loves. Everybody on a pitching staff, everybody in the bullpen, everybody on the starting rotation loves the long guy. He's like, you went 2 today? Don't worry. He's like whoever the Pirates. Hey, Bednar, you're not pitching today. Hey, Holderman. Hey, Chapman, sit down. I've got 5 today, right? And they're okay with it. And it's, like Rob Zastrisny, he'd been a long guy before, and he's awesome. Like or Chase DeYoung, right? Like you go out there and it's like, you get 40 outings a year, and 30 of them are going to be 1 to 2 innings as that long guy. But maybe, or let's say 35 or 34. Let's say 5 or 6 are those 4-inning Johnsons that you're like, oh gosh. And then it's like Chase is out there like last year, 2 years ago. All right, I might throw, 94 some days, but today I'm going to throw 91, and I'm going to get every one of you to swing at the first pitch, and I'm going to go 4 innings on like 40 pitches. And as soon like I'm almost positive that it was against the Orioles in 2022. Chase comes in like the 4th inning, right? I think he goes 4 1/3 on like 44 pitches, maybe a little more, maybe like 50, but like super, super efficient. And like as soon as he gets taken out of the game, he's walking off the field. We're in the bullpen like partying. We're like, let's go. And he's walking off the field, looks to the bullpen, and hat tips us because he's like, I got you. Like, that's my job. And everyone loved Chase DeYoung. Everyone loved Chase DeYoung.
That's the best. It is ugly though, because like usually when they're coming in, you're down by 1 million, and it's just like these outs are ugly outs. You
Yeah,
just
they're
trying to get.
ugly. And, you give up a couple runs, but you go 4 innings, and the staff's like, you saved us. You did your job. You did it. We didn't need you to go 4 shutty. We didn't. You gave up 2 runs. You got us to the 8th inning. You gave us a chance, right? Like if you're down 7-0 in the second, right? And he covers 4 innings, like what happens? You get a 3-run homer here, 2 solo shots, and you look up and he finishes the 6th inning and he's giving up 2 runs. It's 9-6. And you're like, well, I'm in the game. And I didn't have to use my bullpen. I've got 3 innings to get 3 runs, and I still have my horses. Like if I need them, I still have them in my clip. So it's like those guys like go out there and they're like, I don't have to be perfect. I have to be efficient. I have a job to do. I'm going to throw strikes. I'm not going to walk people. And I'm going to let the game even itself out. The law of averages. You put up 7 in the first 3 innings, more than likely you're not putting up 7 in the next 3 innings, right? Like it's the law of averages. So you play that game. pound the zone, high fastballs, low breaking balls. I'm going to get some crap outs. A guy might hit it 174, but it's a line out to the shortstop. Like, who cares? Like, it's a part of the game. That's how we do it.
The unsung heroes of Major League Baseball teams
Hey,
are those swing men.
that's right. That's
We
right.
gotta start a campaign. It's like make swing men great again.
Swingman's great again. Yeah, that's
Let's do it, man. I'm gonna lead the charge. All right, I had a couple last questions for you. These aren't related in any way, but these are things I've written down in my notes app. When guys are half swinging at pitches, does that mean they're guessing?
um, maybe to a point. That could be a good reason. I think you know stuff is so good. Stuff is so good that like you're like you see a fastball coming out of the hand and it turns into a slider and you're really instead of guessing you're just going oh shit like I'm not trying to swing like can I stop um some guys are trying to cheat the pitches and get the pitches and it gets them in trouble but I would say more or less that stuff is so elite some pitches are so elite that half swings are because they're like oh shit I saw something and it's something different and I'm going to look like a fool. So I'm going to try and stop.
I think
But
yeah.
I will say this some guys who are guessing, you'll see them swing. And I don't have any off the top, but like a lot of your veterans, they'll cheat some pitches and you'll throw like a nasty breaking ball and they'll like start their swing, get like halfway, and they'll realize, and instead of like trying to stop and say, oh shit, they just go like, they just like finish like half-heartedly, and they're like, "Yep, that's right."
Their
Okay,
heart's not in
like,
it.
yeah, they're just like, "Whatever." Like, I'm gonna look like an idiot. I've probably got like Stanton. I'm pretty sure does it sometimes. Like, he'll swing at a breaking ball that's like 54 feet in the dirt, and like he'll full swing like it's a heater, and he just like stops and like I think it's hilarious because you see him sometimes do it. He'll like do the swing. He won't look in the dugout. He won't look at the third base coach. He'll just tap home plate and get ready to hit again, like it didn't even happen. And he's like, I don't even care. I got 400 career homers. Like I can look like an idiot sometimes.
I think the reason why I wrote this down was because remember Jared Jones got Bryce Terang to like screw himself into the ground on a half
Oh
swing.
yeah.
I
Oh
think
yeah.
that's
Oh
where I
yeah.
put it in my notes app. Just like, what was he
Yeah.
looking for there?
He
Was
was
he not looking
definitely
for?
guessing.
Yeah.
He was guessing for a heater, and about halfway through, he was probably pulling the "Oh God, I'm on pitching ninja." Like
Yep.
here we go.
I'm on
So
the internet for the rest of my life as the sword of the year.
yeah, that's
Um,
right. That's right.
I saw a stat that George Kirby against Texas in his career is 5-0 with a 1.08 ERA.
Mhm.
I feel like that just means he just has their number, and I feel like they probably know that he has their number. What is it about like hitters and against specific pitchers that can just like there's no chance of hitting them, and then who is the team or hitter that you've owned?
Oh goodness. Um, yeah, I mean, first off, you get into people's head and it's like, I own this guy or I don't own this guy. Um, I really don't. I mean, I'm sure there's some people that I've got their number, and I'm sure there are some people that I don't have their number. Um, I and it's probably more or less the second one, considering I'm my career isn't it hasn't been like this the whole time, but I don't know. You got guys like I know. I mean, my buddy B Ray, he's got a couple of guys where he's like fighting you to hit if they're pitching. Like I'm not saying any names, but I know a
Yeah.
guy. He's got like a 1,700 career OPS against with like 6 doubles and like 3 homers, and he's like he can't get me out. Like I don't even care. Like put me up there. Like I don't care. I know I'm gonna hit. So and then there's other guys where you go up to the plate and you're like, I have absolutely no chance of hitting this guy. I have no chance of getting him out. I have no chance of, you know, like he's going to hit the ball hard on me. And I know he is. And I'm okay with that. Just keep it in the ballpark. So I, I could probably think about it, but I don't have any off the top. There's a few that I know, like they come to the plate and I'm like, all right, you can't hit the changeup, you can't hit the slider. But you know, I usually would grind through some ABs and just put. I have some friends that I might own or have owned in the past, and I'll just keep them to myself. I'm
Okay.
not gonna put them out there because I value my friendships.
You're a good man. When I was a kid growing up, the Orioles had a guy named Brian Madditz. I don't know if you remember that name.
Ryan
First
Mallett.
round draft pick. Whenever they played the Boston Red Sox and David Ortiz would come to the plate, I think Ortiz was like 1 for 40 off of him, and it was the coolest thing ever because you knew that like Ortiz had no chance. Mattis was going to get him on 3 straight, and it was going to be the best. Like he was like the stopper. He's just like it's the big poppy stopper we had in the pen. So like I'm sure the mental gymnastics that Ortiz would have to play to be like, oh my God, really? It's this guy. It's this guy again. So
All right,
it's a
let's
fun
see.
dynamic.
I'm looking at some stuff. Let's see. Now that you've asked, I'm looking at it. Because let's see. I don't. I mean, the person I've faced the most in my big league career is Arenado and Edmund, and I've only faced them 13 times each. Well, 13 official ABs, so like 16 times each. But let's see. Let's do like 4 ABs and see what this says. Yeah, like the Cardinals. I've got Arenado's 4 for 13, Edmonds 3 for 13, Carlson's 2 for 11, but one of those two was a homer, backside homer on a sinker away. What in the heck? Goldschmidt. Wow, I did not know that. He's 1 for 9 off me. I've walked him 3 times, but 1 for 9. I wouldn't have
1 for 9.
Wouldn't have expected that.
It's just like those
Um,
the NL Central guys.
oh
Those
yeah,
seem like
they're all over. I mean, I will say this: Corey Dickerson, um, big league debut, first inning homer off me. I faced him 7 times. He's 3 for 7 with 2 homers. Um, First AB he faced me homer. So then I think I get him the next 2 times I face him that day. And I'm like, okay, whatever. My next start in the big leagues is in Miami against him. Like second pitch of the game, there's like fastball up. I'm like, no shot he can get me again. Like bomb. I'm like he's like 2 for 4 off me to start my big league career, basically with 2 homers. I'm like, that's fascinating. Yastrzemski, he's got. Oh, I remember that. He's 1 for 7 with a couple punchies, but his one hit was a triple on a ball that like trickled down the right field line. That it was a check swing. I remember that.
a check swing triple.
So check swing. We were playing in Pittsburgh, and he was like, we were playing kind of shifted, I guess, like to where he wasn't like Deadpool me, and he like excuse me swinged it down the right field line, and it took us a little while to get to it. So um, Acuna has a lot of people's number. He's 2 for 6 off me with 2 homers. I remember both of those. But you got like Jason Hayward's 1 for 6. Marcell Ozuna's 1 for 6.
That's pretty good.
Christian Walker's 1 for 6. Josh Bell definitely won the trade. Josh Bell, he's 4 for 5 off me. Oof.
Oh no, Jesus!
But 4 for 5 with 4 of the worst singles I think I've ever given up in my life. No extra base hits. I remember all of those too. Like 3 of them are like broken bat singles up the middle.
I looked up Joey Votto, 1 for 2, unfortunately with a 4-bagger.
Backside homer in Cincinnati, on like a changeup down and away. I thought like he hit it, and I was like, great, he's out. Got over the fence in the Cincinnati small park.
The Great American Small Park.
Yeah,
Damn.
Great American Small Park. There's a couple, got some 1 for 4s like Pete Alonso. There's some guys in there. Like Harper's the same way. 1 for 4, pumped. Absolutely pumped. I remember it. Dead center. Soto 1 for 4. Now
You got him 3 times on K's though.
3 punchies on Soto. He's giving me some crap. We were teammates, and I guess the last time I faced him was in Pittsburgh, and I threw him like three sliders in a row. And we were teammates for a little bit. We knew each other, and he was like, "No fastball, no fastball," and I'm like, "I'm not stupid. Like, like what? Like, no fastballs. I'm not throwing you a heater. Like, are you kidding me? It's like that's like a death wish.
What's the
Like, come
scouting
on.
report? Is it just all you said all off speed?
Well, my slider is one of my to lefties. I don't know the exact number, but like in 2022, I had thrown like I don't know 250 sliders to lefties, and I'd given up one hit on it all year or something like that. So to lefties, like that down and in slider is a really good pitch for me. Um, so there's a couple over fours that I got in there. There's some one of my buddies from Korea, Heredia, 0 for 4. He's a buddy of mine now. We played in Korea against each other, obviously, but like Colton Wong in there, um, Soto. There's a couple of them. I got some 1 for 4s against some pretty good names. Alonzo, Trey Turner, Soto. I didn't have a lot of like my sample size when you go from being like a starter to a reliever. Um, but like the Cardinals, there's a lot of Cardinals up at the top, and there's some 1 for 7s, 1 for 8s, um, sprinkled in there, like Harrison Bader, Freddie Freeman's in there. There's a couple walks. Some of those guys that you face a lot. I don't want to like you walk them some, and it's almost like easier to like give them your best stuff and make them get themselves out or walk them than like them hit it 700 feet on you. So
That's how I feel about Soto. It's just like I'd rather put him on first, but then the Judge. So I don't know.
uh,
There's no solution. This is just gonna be pain all year.
yeah, Soto's and Soto's on a different level right now, man. You get that man some protection. He's worth $600 million,
Yeah,
maybe.
it's
So
insane. All right, last question. I don't know if you saw this, but Max Scherzer, he was barking at Pete Alonso because he didn't swing when there was a position player pitching to him. And he just like walked and he was at first base and Max was giving him so much shit. Is that a thing? Are you like when position players are pitching, is it like wrong to just go up there and look at them?
I mean, batters, in my opinion, this is where I come from. They know the situation, and they want to hit when a pitcher. They want to hit to a point. I don't know if the count was it a 3-2 count.
I don't have that in front of me. I'll have to go back and look.
If it was a 3-2 count, I'm going to tell you, Pete doesn't want to swing because the last thing a hitter wants to do is strike out to a position player. If it's like 3-0 or 3-1 to where it was, he probably should have swung. Um,
3-1.
and so 3-1, yeah, like hanging up and in, like try and hit your homer, like you're not going to strike out, like do your thing. But that's Max, man. He's a good dude. He's a good teammate, and him and Pete probably loved each other in New York.
Yeah.
So there's not like a written rule or
Yeah.
anything, but like 3-1 up and in at like 50 miles an hour. Pete's the strongest man in baseball. Like, let's see that softball swing you had in the College World Series Home Run Derby, and let's see how far you can hit it. Like, if you get out, you get out. But if you hit it, it's going to go 6 miles. Come on, like it's a good bark. It's a good
Okay.
chirp.
I
It's a good
figured it
chirp.
was. They're all laughing the entire time. Like
Oh
I
yeah.
didn't know there's like some unwritten rules about position player pitching that's like, hey man, like it's a tough time
Well,
to have to be out there.
when it's going on, right? Like everyone knows the situation, right? Like he's pitching for a reason. Like, and as players now, like we're so accustomed to the games being fast. It's like swing the bat. Like, come on. Like it's
Let's get this
already
over.
22-0, whatever it may be, right? Like you're going to get your walks throughout the year. You're going to hit 30 homers. Like let's see if you can get an extra one right here. Like no one wants to see you walk at 50 miles an hour. We want to see you hit it through the roof of the stadium. Like, come on, let's go.
It's a good point. Yeah, I just feel bad for position players pitching. It's just like guys, like I don't want to be out here. Just like, could we just get this over with so we can all go
Hey,
home?
speaking of position player pitching, this was before tonight. Codify, I mentioned them earlier. They're big data people. They tweeted that the last 16 times that a position player has pitched, it's been scoreless. Tweeted that like yesterday.
Pretty
So
good.
16 outings from position players are scoreless. Oh, that's beautiful. That's incredible. That's music to my ears. So that's it's a good chirp because it shouldn't happen, but it is happening. So
It's I asked Brian about that because Brian, when he was on the Padres, he had it hit off of Matt Carpenter, and Matt
okay.
Carpenter was pitching to him, and I think he like popped one straight up to like the second baseman, and he's like, that's like haunted me ever since because it's like I should have hit that out, like I shouldn't pop that up. It's Matt Carpenter.
Yep, yep.
So
Oh, they do not like getting out. They're like they just drop their head, but part of it, man, they're not. There's a hitting speed, right? And the hitting speed's probably 90 to 93 nowadays, as to where it probably used to be like 90 92. And they're all throwing below the hitting speed, so it throws them off. They're not used to it. It's something different. So it makes sense.
I think when Frank Schwindel was position player pitching a couple years ago, he was dropping 38 in there.
Oh yeah,
I don't
like
know if that's
Brock Holt threw one like last year or 2 years ago. It was like 35 mile an hour. It's like,
Ew.
gosh,
How does
how
it
do you
even
even do that?
how does it have the momentum to go? Like it doesn't
Literally,
like up.
like perfect. Like
That's awesome. I feel like I've learned about 15 new things that I'm going to carry with me and tell other people about the game of baseball, which I think is the goal. I think the goal every time we have you on is just like, I want to learn so much about pitching because you're the man. The way you articulate it, like somebody commented on one of the videos I posted of you breaking down like the Rowdy Tellez slide thing. It's like, guy has great analysis, needs to be in the booth. So I'm just saying, in the next career, this might be a thing. So
Hey,
you're
that's
the best, Will.
hopefully we can play a couple more years, and then we'll,
Yeah.
these videos can be my what is it, my work to show that I can do it, maybe. So
Proof of
I would never.
concept.
Yeah, there we go. I'm never gonna say no to that, because being around the game and being able to just talk the game is something that I really enjoy, and that's why I like coming on here. We have good baseball talk, and I feel like growing the game is something that is huge, and a lot of people don't understand the game at a degree that players do, and being able to share some of that and be a light on the game is something that I always want to be. So
Pitchers have the best analysis. I'm telling you, these guys, they make the best like color analysts. So the man.
well, thank you for having me. I really do appreciate it. I always have a good time, and maybe we can do it again in a couple weeks.